Okay, just a few announcements. We're recording the meeting. If anybody wants to join us in person, you're free to join us in Hartford. Please mute your microphone so we don't catch the background noise. Feel free to use the chat box. We can see everyone's names here, so I think we're all set there for when you want to say something. With that, let me turn it to Chair Reed and we'll get the meeting started.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to TGIF Day. And let's see, let's call this meeting to order at 9:03 a.m. on June 26th. I should say also, this has got a jam-packed meeting in a good way. It's got a lot of interesting things, and it is the final meeting of our fiscal year, which begins in July 1st. So this is actually the final meeting of fiscal 26. And are there any public comments? Okay, hearing none, that moves us on to the consent agenda. Brian, did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we have a couple of resolutions. We've got the meeting minutes from our last meeting on April 24th. We've got several position descriptions, just some background for newer board members. Any position descriptions, director level or above, we've had a tradition of bringing those to the board for review and approval. So we've got 3 positions there. A director of marketing, communications, and outreach, which will be to support the promotion of Rudy Stirk on our team. We've got a director of portfolio management, which will be for the promotion of Corey Lesniak, who oversees a lot of our asset management, and a director of people operations, which will be directed to Joe Buonata on our team. So those are the 3 position descriptions you see in the board packet. We've also got a CPACE transaction that's already board approved, but we're requesting a time extension to get the project to completion. There are some slight changes there, a reduction in the assessment, but that's in your board packet. So those are resolutions 1 through 3. And then we've included our financial statements through Q3 of FY20. Actually, that should be through FY26, including the shortened version and the comprehensive version of those statements, along with the associated memo summarizing the findings. And we have our memo for transactions under 500,000 and no more in aggregate than 2 million. We don't have any transactions underneath that memo. So would request approval of resolutions 1 through 3.
Are there any questions or concerns?
I just had a question. As director of people operations, is that basically like the HR director?
That's correct.
In other, in
I had to ask that too, John.
Yeah.
That's correct, John.
All right. Well, that's good.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I second. Lisa Shanahan.
Thank you, Lisa. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Okay. Moving on, let's see, to item number 4, committee updates. I think first we're going to start off with Eric talking about the Budget Operations and Compensation Committee.
That's correct.
Oh, good. Hi, Eric.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So as we typically do this time of year, we bring you a recommendation from the Budget Operations and Compensation Committee regarding our upcoming fiscal year. So I'll start off with the targets and then I'll go through the budget. So we are proposing a set of targets for next year. So for financing programs, that's 1,137 projects for $100 million and change in total capital deployment, of which about half of that, $52 million, will be from the Green Bank committed capital. And we're looking to install at least 10.5 megawatts of capacity. This continues the growth of CPACE, the growth of Solar MAP, our in MAP Plus, our marketplace assistance program, where we're targeting munis and affordable multifamily housing. We're expecting to continue to support PPA development with third-party developers. And Smarty is in here as well. We're now including that in the financing programs line. And continued partnership with Amalgamated and Eversource to continue the Small Business Energy Advantage program. On the incentive program side, we're proposing 605 projects for a total of $33 million of capital deployment, of which 7.3 million will be incentives from the Green Bank balance sheet. That will deliver 16.5 megawatts of nameplate capacity of energy storage. Those are in line with Pura's expectations and the overall program. Next slide. On the environmental infrastructure side of the house, we're setting a target of 2 transactions for $10 million in capital deployment. $3.8 million of that will be Green Bank capital. We have a great pipeline that Lee and her team have been developing, and at this point, it's just a matter to see what gets over the finish line the quickest. Focus there is really on organic waste. On the investments team, so these are our bespoke transactions as well as transactions that are done to facilitate programmatic activity. We're forecasting a total of 38 transactions for $51 million in capital deployment, of which 25 will be Green Bank capital. That'll be 5.9 megawatts of installed capacity. These transactions represent third-party PPA debt. We have 6 projects which were focused on school districts coming through our school bus accelerator, where we're working to electrify school bus fleets. We still expect there to be 1 transportation-related transaction that will flow through Capital Solutions. The 2 EI transactions are actually here as well, and 6 clean energy, distributed energy projects. Next slide. So as an organization, that takes us to 1,780 projects for a total of $185 million of capital deployment. So that's for the entire green economy, of which we will commit $84 million of Green Bank capital. And we will install at least 18.5 megawatts of capacity. Are there questions on targets at this point before I pivot to how we're going to pay for the operations of this?
Yeah, Eric.
Yes.
It's Bert here. I know that you pointed out that the EI was copied into the Capital Solutions line. Is that eliminated here in this total
Yes.
of 84 million? Okay, just so that
Yes.
The directors know. That's
Yes, we thanks to this being my 11th budget cycle and a well-developed Excel file, we're able to filter out duplicates and make sure that we're counting correctly.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the budget. Revenues are increasing year on year by about 2%. That's driven predominantly by interest income. So for total for this next fiscal year, we're forecasting $161 million in revenue. That's up from a budget of $157 million last year. Included in last year's budget, there was about $100 million that we did not receive in federal grants. We are including that in this year's budget, as we are hopeful that this is resolved in the current litigation that's going on. But overall, the big takeaway, both with and without the federal grants, We are expecting revenues to grow by about 2%, and that's due to the investment activity that we've undertaken this year and the loans that we've added to our book.
How does the management, I'm sorry, it's Tom. My apologies. Can I ask a question?
Sure thing.
Yes, certain, Tom.
Thanks. How does management feel about that budget target? Is that considered conservative, aggressive, or, I feel like Goldilocks here, just right?
I would say it's just right. I think it's look, Dan's unfortunately not here today to walk through the detail of how they forecast interest income, but it's basically everything that's owed to us off of the loans that we've already done, plus a very tiny bogey of anything that's originated early in the year that would start repaying next year. That bogey is, I would dare say, de minimis. And this is all forecast of what's already on the books in terms of interest income. In terms of looking at the other sources of income, we have a pretty solid track record of forecasting utility customer, basically the system benefit charge. When we have been off on that, we've been conservative, and we have underestimated what we have received. Reggie's a fixed amount at $5.2 million by statute. CPACE closing fees, again, that's fairly conservative based off of what we're setting CPACE targets. Rec sales, a lot of those are, I would say the vast majority of those are locked into contracts right now. So as is our Shrek income. So it's just about the quantity that we produce. We've recently implemented some new methodology around our forecasting, which is, I would say, errs on the side of us being more conservative. So I would say this many of the elements in here, we're taking a conservative approach. I would say overall, it gets us to the just right place to continue on to your Goldilocks metaphor, Tom.
So being conservative in every bucket gets us to just right?
I think so. If we're conservative, hopefully we end up in the right place here.
It sounds like it's a little conservative then.
A little bit. I'd rather be conservative on the revenue side.
I'm not
conservative
arguing.
on the expense side. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not arguing. I'm just making an observation. That's all. So thank you.
Cool.
Anybody else?
All right.
Okay.
On the operating expenses side of the house, our operating expenses are essentially flat. Technically, they're down by about $20,000. We've made a big push this year to be more efficient in budgeting and in operations. We had programs that cut some of their expenses. They identified ways that they could achieve efficiencies. Our biggest savings is coming on the operations and maintenance side of the house. In asset management, we've done, I guess the equivalent is preventative maintenance there. So we've done a lot of meter replacement. We still have a lot to go, but we've optimized by what was going to pay us back more quickly. We also did a lot of inverter changeouts. We've hit a lot of things that we shouldn't have to hit for the next several years. So that's leading to a big decline in the O&M budget year on year. Other things that we aren't, well, knock on wood, we shouldn't face is we have decreased legal expenses. We're not expecting the same litigation, the need for outside counsel that we had last year. And just overall more prudent management here is what's driving this. There is one big addition here, which is our pilot on the batteries. So you'll see a big increase in our research and development budget. This is a statutorily mandated pilot that we are running with the aims to drive down as a solution to energy affordability. So our goal is to reduce the amount of power that is exported to the grid and thus net metered, which adds to public benefits charge. And so therefore we are running a program at the order of the legislature that will allow us to install batteries that will allow homes to not export the excess power and use it on site. So we're pretty excited about that, and looking forward to providing updates throughout the year as that progresses. Other questions on operating expenditures?
This is Tom. I will have a few questions, but I'll defer to my colleagues first.
Anybody else? Go, Tom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Couple things. Number one, when you say we're flat is compared to what? Year-over-year budget, or flat is compared to year-over-year actual kind of reforecast versus budget?
Year-over-year budget.
Okay, so what are we tracking? I forget, versus budget. My apologies. How far up or down are we on expenses?
We're under budget currently by about 1.7 million. Sorry, no, I'm looking at the wrong line. We're under budget by about $15 million.
Okay, so if you were to do the math on that on operating expenses, what percentage increase would that be year over year, approximately?
On budget, that would be about a 40% increase on actuals. I mean, this is going through the end of April, so it's not a fair picture, but
well, that's what I'm saying. Just assume the 15 million. I'll give you a bogey here. Assume that you're flat on budget for the remainder of the year. Okay, so you're $15 million down, right, versus 9 months. Let's just do the math and see what the real increase in spending is. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So what's that number, if you don't mind?
Opening up my Excel.
Okay, I appreciate that.
It's
and I don't know if
36.
somebody,
It's 36%.
so you're saying that, here's the optics then. You're saying that revenue is going up 2%, but operating expenses are going up 36%?
So every year we prepare the budget with what are our best intentions to spend the money. In my time here, we've never actually spent our budget. I don't think we've ever gone over in any line item. We've tended to over budget, obviously. So I mean, we're continuing to do that, providing ourselves some bandwidth. So I think this is.
Yeah. I just don't know. I don't know that I buy that 36%. I mean, a year over year, what's the percentage down from budget we are year over year, if you don't mind? I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Year to date, operating expenses for this year are below budget by how much?
By about 36%.
36% year over year, we're down below budget on operating expenses. Okay.
Yes.
So you're thinking that operating expenses are going to be 36% higher next year, all things being equal?
Potentially, if we get to the things that we said that we were going to get to. So there are many things that we budgeted for that we couldn't accomplish this year. So there were consulting projects, systems development, some O&M work that we did not get to. So we are ending up not spending that whole budget this year, and a lot of that will be deferred. I think that we over budget in money and under budget in time. So.
Okay, so that probably means that our revenue line isn't near budget this year, right? And again, apologies, I'm traveling.
At revenue, I will tell you where we're hitting on revenue. Let me just flip back.
Percentage basis is fine.
So we are, I mean, I got to take out the greenhouse gas reduction fund.
Sure.
Sorry, I got to get to something that has actuals on it. Bear with me 1 second.
No problem. And my apologies for diverting us. I'm just trying to get some optics here.
So,
this is Dominic. I just wanted to jump into, and just to clarify, I mean, you kind of alluded it to there. is part of the big swing there, just the uncertainty around the greenhouse gas money that was, where we kind of planned on getting that funding and planned on having some activities related to that funding, and it's still sort of a little bit in limbo.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get to an apples to apples really, because we're really not apples to apples on the budget right now on the variance analysis, right? And my apologies because I didn't catch that sooner, right? But we're not apples to apples.
We're running at 88% to revenue as of, let me just double check the date on this, as
Sure.
of 4:30.
So we're like 22% down on revenue,
12%,
36%.
12% down on revenue.
That's 12%. I thought you said we were at, 12%. You said 88. My apologies. So that would assume that puts us at like a 14% growth rate revenue year over year, all things being equal, and a 36% growth rate in expenses, all things being equal.
Well, you're comparing 9 months on both of those to full year projections. So, I mean, if I include the full year, then we're going to hit revenue.
I understand, but I'm just doing it on a percentage basis, not on a dollar basis, and that's why. And I'm assuming those percentages will hold for the fourth quarter, which is almost complete now anyway. So that's where I'm coming up with that. Let's go into the expense drivers. What are you guys assuming for on your operating expenses, not payroll? What are you assuming on increases on just rates and things for your expenses in your current budget?
We've done like 3 to 5%. Most of the stuff has been worked out with vendors already for this budget.
Okay, and what are you presuming for payroll increases? Not new positions or anything like that, just rate. And what are you presuming for benefits increases?
I don't have the benefits number in front of me. The benefits increase, I'm sorry, is 13%, and that's coming directly from the state.
Okay.
Lee, I think you had a question.
I was just going to say, Eric, if you need any time to flip calcs, Tom, to give just a little very, very granular detail on how some of this comes down to a particular department being underspent, with certain open headcount, and you were, cluing in about personnel versus other operation expense increases. But, trying to find right people for right roles, measuring twice and cutting once. We've been a bit underspent on open headcount too. So just sharing a little bit of detail as it relates to, for example, environmental infrastructure.
Right.
Oops. Deputy Commissioner Frank, I believe you have your hand raised.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to know or maybe understand. Obviously, the federal money is a big swing. I'm definitely on the revenue side, but I'm assuming also on the expense side. Is there maybe just qualitatively like a version of the revenues and operating expenses of kind of like like if we get the federal grant money versus if we don't? Yeah,
there is. It was in the mailing. So it's it's one of the sections in there. Basically, we have no expenses tied to that money just due to the timeline that it's going to take to deploy. So that's all investment money.
Okay.
So we still have our pipeline. I think where we would shift if that money came in the door tomorrow is our positions in projects might change what we're committing in terms of Green Bank capital, but that's not going to change operating expenses in the short term.
Is there a view then of the P&L of the revenues? And apologies, I'm new to this. This is obviously that shows kind of like apples to apples, like essentially operating revenue compared to operating expenses, so that kind of keep the kind of investments out of it.
It's, yeah, I didn't put that in the slide. So yeah, there's none of the financials have the investments in that. Those are balance sheet, not part of the part of that. If you look on the third page of the budget attachment in the mailing, there's the breakdown of the budget without the GGRF money.
What? Okay, we can talk about that. I can't find it right now, but I'm sure.
Yeah, and I'm happy to offline walk you through this as well.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you.
Any more questions or concerns?
Yeah, my only concern on the expense side is I think I heard that there's a 5% salary increase budgeted. Now, I might make me the most unpopular guy in the room, but for years I've been talking about doing incentive comp here as opposed to just salary increases year over year. In the private sector, they're not going up by 5% for salary increases. So I just think this is very problematic. So I just want to raise that for discussion for the group. Unfortunately, I have to leave. I just had my car break down. So I need to go take care of this now. So, all right. So it must be kismet because I was going to complain about salary increases. And so my car broke down. So,
You need to put some of those incentives
about
into
that.
fixing your car.
There you go. Well, I think it's the rental car, not mine. So there you go.
Okay.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Tom.
Thanks.
Bye-bye, Tom.
John.
So Eric, what you want me to take a stab broadly just at historically, when it comes to annual compensation increases, we have been a performance-driven organization. So we've had merit pools up to 3%, up to 5%, and that can vary based on the individual performance of a staff member by their supervisor and their peers. With inflation recently, starting in 2021, 2022, we started adding a COLA because any merit compensation was being eaten up by inflation. Therefore, people were being compensated less. Within this budget, we don't have a cost of living adjustment. It's only a merit pool, a 5% merit pool. So that's been how we've handled compensation historically, has been very merit driven, not COLA driven, but performance driven. Tom's proposal of incentive comp is interesting. We haven't instituted something like that, but just wanted to give the board a historical sense of, we're not a COLA, if we just shifted to a pure COLA basis as opposed to merit, that might change how we operate. But just wanted to put that out there.
Oops. John, I think you had your hand
I
up.
think 5% is reasonable. I'm sorry, I can't see anyone's hands up. I think 5% is reasonable in this economy, and if we want to retain talent, we need to compensate people. Thank you.
John?
Yeah, I just point out that in fact I had argued in favor of COLA and a general increase due to the crazy nature of prices in the current economy. But we ended up going with a performance base, which means that it's not, there's a potential 5% there, but it's not necessarily realized. It depends on people's performance as judged by their supervisors. And as the other speaker had said, when Tom compares us to the private sector, there's a whole lot of people working at the Green Bank who would make a lot more money if they went into the private sector. but they work for the Green Bank because of the mission. So I think that the 5% on a merit basis is really actually a fairly modest way to approach this. And I swear I had nothing to do with Tom's car breaking down.
You didn't make a call, John?
Thank you, John. And just to note, the 5% is in line with the other quasis that we spoke with when doing our budget planning a couple months ago, or at least what they were planning to do when we had those conversations. So,
John, sometimes the energy you give is the energy you get.
Anything else, Eric? Do you?
so moving on to
Moving on.
Well, I think that's all on the expenses that, I mean, I'm happy to walk through this continually in more detail if anybody would like, but our next slide that we need to get through is the strategic partners, and these are our partners that we have vetted through competitive bid contracts, and we're looking to enter into PSAs for, and we're asking for the board's blessing here so that we don't have to put all the pressure on Madam Chair for reviewing and approving each of these individually. We have on here New Charter Technologies, who's been a long-standing IT partner who we use for web development and some other IT development. We have Nexus Dynamics Group, who's our IT managed services provider. Alter Domus, who does our servicing for CPACE. CSW, our partner on Solar Map for technical assistance. DNVGL, the global engineering and consulting firm, who's the CPACE technical administrator. Guidehouse, who is a resource for us on a lot of the technical side and regulatory side for ESS. Customized Energy Solutions, the EM&V provider for energy storage solutions. PKF O'Connor Davies, our accountant. CTEC Solar, one of our operations and maintenance providers. Go, our marketing agency. Carasoft Technology, that I'll highlight. BONC approved this at a lower amount. We needed to raise it just due to some shifting numbers and things that we found were more, it was easier and more cost efficient to purchase through Carasoft, so we're raising it to by 14,000, or I'm sorry, I raised it by 20,000 to 230,000 a year. There are the states, they have the state contract for Salesforce. DCS Energy, who's another operations and maintenance provider, as is SST Construction. And then finally also Energy, who is our monitoring platform for all of our solar generation. So, Kim?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I might have missed it at the beginning. You've indicated the year of the RFP.
Yes.
Are you currently in PSAs with these folks already, or you said you need to enter into PSAs?
So any PSAs that we do have with them are expiring at the end of the current fiscal year, and so we would need to enter into new PSAs with them.
I see. Okay. I'm just comparing it to how we do things here, which the PSA is for the term of the RFP. So that's fine. Okay, good. I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah, we typically will only do a PSA for a 1 year because that's what we are budgeting. I think we've had one exception that since I've been here, which was related to a multi-year contract related to, we had to pick a multi-year vendor for ESS. So
I see. Okay, got it. Thank you.
thanks. And that brings us to a resolution.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Okay. I see, John.
Yeah, I just to say that the budget committee fully approves and recommends this resolution to the full board.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 4?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Joanne, I'll second.
Thank you, Joanne. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Okay. Moving on. I think we're going to have Brian Farnan talk about the audit compliance and governance committee. Is Brian there? Are you there?
I am here. Yes. And
Oh,
I'm going to
excellent.
actually
Bring
be,
it.
I'm right here. And I'm going to be here with James DeSantos. And James is our legislative liaison. So I'll let him take the lead. He did a great job this last legislative session. It was a home run. We're very pleased with the result of this short session. So James, I'll turn it over to you. We can go to the next slide.
Good morning, everyone. James DeSantos, Legislative Liaison. I'm just going to walk you through a very high level the pieces of legislation that affect the Green Bank directly. You all received the 2026 legislative summary in your packets. It's about 34 pages. It's an aggregation of all legislation that pertains to not only the Green Bank directly, but also areas of just clean energy, environmental infrastructure, quasi and general impact to anything that involves our mission. So upon review of that, if you have any questions at all, please reach out to me. Happy to sit down one-on-one and walk through it too in detail if you prefer that. So the 2026 short session was the shortest in Connecticut history, they say. So it went from February 4th to May 6th, and a lot happened in that very short time. So 1,100 bills were introduced. Ultimately, 151 were signed into law as public act. A lot of those 151 bills were aircraft carriers, so they had probably 15 to 20 bills all rolled into one. So the 151's a little deceiving. It's probably well over 200, 250. 34 were signed into law as special acts, which are just one-time acts, such as a land conveyance. This year, there were no vetoes by the governor, only one line item veto of a budget bill. So ultimately, the Green Bank tracked over 60 pieces of legislation this session. We testified or submitted testimony at public hearings on over 15 pieces of legislation, and we negotiated language on over 15 pieces as well. So we're probably involved in about 8 to 10% of all legislation that occurs up at the Capitol. So this session, to Brian's point earlier, was, affordability was center of attention this session. But unlike the session before, it focused on every sector you could imagine, from healthcare to transportation to college education costs. So the spotlight wasn't directly on electricity this year, which definitely played into our favor and helped us to protect any movements on the public benefit charge front. We can go to the next slide, unless Brian Farnan would like to comment at the end of each one, or just keep going, Brian?
No, you're good. Keep it going. You got it, James.
All right. So just highlighting the bills that impact us directly. So 2616, it's a Consumer Protection Task Force bill. Department of Consumer Protection and the OCC are the former task force to develop a consumer safety handbook. There is a task force that was initially created in 2024. It was amended in 2025. Amended again in 2026, and our appointment to that task force is going to be Bill Colonis. So hopefully that task force will be up and running soon, and we can get some results out of that one. A big one was our DOT implementer bill. This is our zero emission school bus bill. Sarah Rari and Kevin Moss worked very hard on this, as did Madam Chair. There's several sections of this that are very important. So section 24 focuses solely on the electric school bus scalable deployment targets. It changes environmental justice communities to distressed municipalities for clarity. There is some confusion on who was eligible by what timeline. That just creates a little clarity. Municipal transition plans, which is a plan for electrification, is due in 2029 for distressed municipalities and 2035 for the remainder of the municipalities. We're looking at electrification in distress of 50% by 2035 and then 90% by 2040 for all municipalities. It's moved from 100 to 90 to allow the outliers within the districts. If someone's going to a field trip to New York or something, we wanted to give them a little flexibility. It provided a little comfort to the organizations that we were working with, and that's why that was incorporated. It also decouples the state from the federal requirements of a match, and DEEP now moving forward must administer this program in consultation with the Green Bank, which is fantastic for the Green Bank and for DEEP. Section 36 creates a work group on alternative fuels. There were a lot of pieces of legislation introduced this session that would have tried to push biodiesel or propane into the rollout of school buses here in Connecticut. Ultimately, those pieces of legislation did not pass, but this work group was put into place to come up with recommendations if necessary. Next slide you can go to. So this was the big one. So this was the energy omnibus legislation, and this pulls together a lot of things into one. It's the biggest thing was that this was modeled after recommendations that were made throughout the PURA docket process. So it just shows how much effort PURA put into this, and how much the legislature listens to the reports and studies and task force and recommendations that are made in establishing or writing these pieces of legislation. They become a playbook. So PURA is to establish successor programs for RRES, NRES, and SCEF by the end of 2027. Eversource and UI will then begin to offer tariff terms for up to 20 years until 2035. So essentially what we have is we have a 7-year runway now. So the programs are not going to expire. We're providing certainty in the market for the next 7 years until 2035. So that was a huge success for financing and for deployment. RES, NRES, SCEF, and ESS for tariff year starting in 2028. There is a megawatt target of 180 megawatts per year, and there's also an associated spending target at 85 million per year. So the spending target, of course, takes precedence over the megawatt target in terms of rollout. There's also language in there that allows the budget to be increased up to 5% annually if PURA deems necessary. So that numbers could shift either way. There's 2 Green Bank additions that were added to this, which was very important from our perspective. It's the residential storage and energy projects. So these are just residential storage paired with energy that provide benefits to all ratepayers by a ratepayer impact measurement, or a RIM, which PURA is to create, which shows that the benefits are spread across all ratepayers. If that is determined, which they are outside of the spending target and megawatt targets. So this is an amazing opportunity for the ESS team. PURA is also required to prioritize and adopt an allocation methodology that promotes the initial ESS target of 580 megawatts by 12/31/31. All right, you can go to the next slide. This bill had 19 sections, so I only tried to pull out the most important. So Section 7 is, Eric Schrago alluded to this earlier in his presentation. This is a $2 million pilot for the Green Bank to establish and administer, which is to promote an energy storage system for residential customers that are currently participating in either RRES or RSIP. No cost to the participants, and there's also no impact to the public benefit charge on this. The goal is to reduce the net metering costs within the non-bypassable federally mandated congestion charge, which is one of the largest line items every year. So we're trying to reduce that as much as possible. We need to report to the E&T Environment Committees by February 1 of 2028. And then it goes into the next section where there's going to be, after our report, a work group is formed, right? So this work group, we're going to analyze the results, submit it into the work group. The work group is going to be chaired by E&T chairs, DEEP, OCC, PURA, and then the Green Bank. The E&T administrative staff will facilitate. So what we're looking at is an establishment potentially or recommendations of a successor program during the 2029 legislative session. All right, next slide. I think this should be the last one here. So I just want to highlight two other bills here that we thought were very interesting. So This is the consumer protection regarding solar and energy storage systems. So Section 11 of this extends the due date for the task force to report to the E&T committee. Bill Colonis, I think this is duplicative, actually. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry. So this is a task force that was created in 2024, 25, 26, but Bill Colonis is being appointed to that. The final one, 26-121, and that concerning economic development comprehensive energy strategy. This is a DEEP must prepare this strategy every 4 years and consider Connecticut's energy policies and how they affect greenhouse gas emissions in the state economy. Several people have been added to this, DECD, AG, DOH, DOT, OPM, OCC, PURA, and most importantly, the Green Bank. So Brian Farnan will be the appointment for the Connecticut Green Bank in the compiling of this document in consultation with DEEP every 4 years. So that's all I have for very high level. Again, the legislative summary was sent to everyone. Any specific questions, please just reach out to me. I'm happy to come down to you or hop on a Teams call to review it in detail. Brian, any follow-up?
No,
Okay.
that was good.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
No questions? No immediate questions?
I've got one thing, one comment.
I knew it. Go ahead.
Which
Todd.
is, well, because it's so impressive how working with the Green Bank and with the legislature, that PURA has become a much more activist type of an agency that does look at the issue of renewable energy in a positive way. And PURA, when it was the DPUC, in my opinion, used to be some kind of cabal that was difficult to even penetrate. I went to one of their hearings once, and it was me and another labor guy and 40 attorneys in the room, literally. And so I think this is a much more accessible and agency that's attuned more to like some real positive goals. So that's been a remarkable turnaround.
Agreed. Another thing in this session too is, all the PURA commissioners were officially confirmed as well, right? So we're up to a full 5 stack now. Everyone's been confirmed and went through the process. So, and they really did not miss a beat at all in the transition. So all the dockets are on schedule and they're moving and they're doing an amazing job.
Okay. Anybody else? So let's see, moving on. Next item is the strategic retreat, and I'm guessing that's Sarah Harari.
You actually have me.
Oh, I do. Okay.
Right.
Because that was an amazing event, and I know Sarah really put her heart and soul into it. So let's hear. Let us have it.
So, as many of you are aware, we had much of the board and a lot of the staff together at Grace Farms earlier this month to brainstorm our priorities for the next 3 years as we are preparing the comprehensive plan. Big takeaways, there's lots of opportunity, lots of diverse areas for us to focus on. With strong desires that we continue to focus on energy affordability and addressing vulnerable communities while expanding into new areas in environmental infrastructure. Next slide. One of the big things that came out of this was we need to continue to convene that the Green Bank is seen as a trusted partner in the green economy, and we need to make sure that we maintain that role, but continue to play that role. So where we can convene and help address market challenges and drive efficiencies, we should do that. There's a need to scale. So members of the board, including John, reminded staff of the urgency of climate change, and the need to do more and do more rapidly. And to do that, and we heard from staff that we need to do things more efficiently and more effectively. And so that's where we're going to spend some of our focus. And you can see some pictures of us in some group discussions, and Brian addressing us at the end of the day down below. If there are other things that members of the board that either were there that they didn't get to bring up that day, or members of the board that weren't able to attend, please feel free to reach out to myself or to Sarah Harari. Love to get your feedback and include that in the comp plan, which we should have for you at the next board meeting.
This is Brian. Just a few additional comments. I want to send a big thank you to Eric and Sarah for leading, not only this offsite retreat for this day, but for really running a quite extensive 6-month process on how we should be thinking about the future. We're going to lay that out next month in July when we present the comprehensive plan for your review and approval. So just a big thank you to you two. Also, your partner in crime, David Haig, the consultant who joined us for that offsite session. I wanted to thank Grace Farms. Eric, you reached out to them to see if they would be willing to host us. We had to apply. We had to go through a lot. And what a facility, what a mission. They provided us the space and everything we needed to get that day, to make that day a success. So just a big thank you to Grace Farms. When we talk about lots of opportunity, Lonnie and I have met with many of the board members over the past, 3 to 6 months, and we've talked a lot about, what are areas we should be doubling down on, doing more of. For example, multifamily affordable housing really stands out, resilience, those sorts of things, as well as trying to identify new areas of opportunity that we may not be fully in yet. And we ran an exercise called Headlines, what in a major press publication, social media, online TV activity, what would it say in 2030 about success when it comes to those opportunities? And we were surrounded by that at this offsite strategic retreat. And to Eric's point, it really expresses lots of opportunity, which really means, as we think about the urgency of confronting climate change, we have a lot of things that we need to be thinking about where, James just laid out, the next 7 years of public policy to support decarbonization and energy affordability. There are other sectors of this green economy that we can enable more private investment in so that we can achieve and receive the benefits from that economy. So we saw a lot of that in the feedback of the day. The challenge is going to be, how do we synthesize that into priorities given our human resources, financial resources, skill sets, and the like, to really continue to make a mark as a leader, not only in our state, nationally and internationally. So again, just wanted to thank the board members for attending that, thank Eric and Sarah for leading on it, and just the staff in general for being a part of it.
Okay. Anything else, Eric?
No, I think that's it. Just thanks to Brian for the opportunity for it. So.
No, and I think, one thing that I really appreciated about it was how you all talked with each other, honestly, and saying, I got confused about the really making even more of an effort to come together to understand each other's lane in this very complicated energy world that we're navigating. So that was great. Let's see, next on the list, the financing programs, updates and recommendations. And I think we're going to talk about the CPACE first. So that feels like Stephanie and Catherine.
Yes, good morning, Sherry. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We just have one CPACE transaction we're presenting today. We're seeking approval for a CPACE transaction at a 78,000 square foot retail facility located at the corner of the Berlin Turnpike and Deming Road in Berlin. It's owned by 337 Berlin LLC. The property is currently under construction with a gut renovation being completed. The existing buildings are being converted into retail space. Construction is expected to be completed in September. The property owner already has a signed lease with Goodwill and a letter of intent with SRS, which is a subsidiary of Home Depot. The CPACE project consists of a 299 kilowatt rooftop solar array that will go on the new building. And the property owner has secured a buy all sell all incentive with Eversource. The owner is requesting a 20-year loan at 5.25% for $770,000 in financing to install the rooftop solar array. The DSCR is 5.94 with a loan to value and lien to value at both 27.9%. Next slide, please. For a standard mortgage repayment schedule, the customer's savings to investment ratio, SIR, is 1.384 with positive cash flows in all years. Does anyone have any questions on this CPACE transaction? If
No.
not, okay. If not, we can move to the resolution.
Do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 5?
I so move. Lisa Shanahan.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Do I hear a second?
Second, Jamie Cosgrove.
Thank you, Jamie Cosgrove. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Oh, sorry. Opposed? Abstaining? Okay. Let's see, and then investment programs, updates and recommendations, item 7. So
Chair.
that sounds like
Chair.
Bert.
Chair Reed,
Yes.
sorry, we have a CPACE for resiliency discussion
sorry.
with
Okay.
Elise. No problem
Sorry,
at all.
I didn't see item B. Okay. So is that Elise?
This is Mackie. I'll kick us off.
Mackie,
and
okay,
hand
great.
it over to Elise. Yeah, thank you, Chair Reed. Good morning, everyone. This is Mackie Dykes, the Executive Vice President of Financing Programs. Next slide, please. This morning, we're going to talk about continue the discussion around the inclusion of resilience into our CPACE program. I'll give a little background just to get everyone up to speed on what we'll be talking about today. So back in 2022, legislation was passed to expand CPACE to include the ability to finance resiliency measures. You see the definition of that here on the screen. Prior to this, it had been an energy financing program. With this expansion, the Green Bank, as the program administrator, worked on incorporating resilience into the program guidelines so that there was a framework of project eligibility and a path for projects to come in for review and approval. All that work was done over a couple of years and approved by the board in March of 2024, which opened up the program for resilience lending. At that point in time, it was just third-party lenders that were doing that lending. The Green Bank itself, which in addition to being an administrator, is also a lender, had not gotten into resilience lending yet. We spent the next year developing a framework and policy for us to get into lending, which we brought to y'all in December, so just about 6 months ago. And generally that was approved, but there were some questions about how we would evaluate projects. Specifically, around the savings that can be expected from these. We're all very familiar as we just breezed through a C-Phase solar project. We're very familiar with after over a decade how the energy projects work and our SIR framework there. We're comfortable evaluating the savings associated with those. Resilience is very different. In fact, the statute acknowledges this. It doesn't require an SIR of at all for these projects, but it does require that a study be done. So there was encouragement in that December discussion to, even though it's not required, to look into how we can have a standardized methodology for estimating savings associated with these projects. So Elise has led a process since that December discussion to start to put something in place. So that's what we'll be focused on today. So with that, I will turn it over to Elise to dive into the details around that.
Great, thank you, Mackie. So if we can go to the next slide, I'll just give everybody a quick reminder. Mackie just mentioned this. So in the statute, when we added resilience, SIR was not required, but a resilience study with an assessment of cost savings, which is the key thing here, was included in the statute. So as Mackie mentioned, we had this conversation in December with you all when we talked about our lending policy, and the idea around standard resilience cost savings processes and documentation came out of that conversation. So we wanted to come up with some of that methodology and that documentation in terms of templates, which include standard metrics and KPIs, key performance indicators, that are applicable across all different types of resilience improvements for Green Bank financed projects, which Mackie just mentioned, and I think you all are probably aware. Energy is pretty standard, right? We've got some pretty standard metrics that we know about with energy, but there are so many different ways to access resilience improvements and different ways to get there, and different metrics and things to use, that we wanted to try to figure out a way to get those all standardized for reviews. So on the next slide, so this just gives you an idea of what we've been working on over the last couple of months. So what staff's been doing. So we conducted a lot of research and reviews of what might be out there already. We determined that there's not a ton of savings standards out there, really, but there are some pretty good resilience study standards that we could use to kind of be the precursor to getting us to these cost savings analyses, including an ASTM standard, which is summarized pretty well in the white paper that was included in your packet. We also did a bunch of meetings. We held calls, had discussions with local resilience industry professionals, other CPACE administrators that are doing resilience in other parts of the country, insurance professionals, and other state agencies, including DEEP, CIRCA, and OPM, which I think I saw Joanna join us. Joanna was a big part of some of these conversations, so thank you, Joanna. And then we also conducted a technical listening session, which we did in April, and that was really fun. And also it was really insightful. We gained a lot of really good information from actual folks that are doing these resilience studies, and how the processes and standards work. And then also getting some insight into the motivations of why property owners might want to do resilience studies in the first place, which is helpful for us to know how to reach these folks when we go to market with this program. And so from that listening session, I was able to meet with John Trzynski from CIRCA and David Murphy from Resilient Land and Water, which is a local resilience firm. They were both very instrumental in helping us put together some of the guidelines and the Appendix O that we built out for resilience. So we had a meeting and we talked about kind of what our charge was here in terms of standardizing this work. And they had the idea of coming up with this resilience improvement calculator tool, which was an exciting suggestion to me because we're used to calculators. We're used to the SIR calculator when it comes to energy savings. So I thought that would be a great idea and something that we could really use and would be really familiar to everybody. So what we did was, or what John and David did is that they put together a white paper on what this calculator tool would do. So the thought behind that was we wanted to kind of put on paper like an explanation of what the calculations would look like, what the approaches would be, and that would really help to inform the actual building of the Excel calculator itself. So we thought that was a good first step before we actually put the calculator itself together. And that white paper is one of the exhibits that you all had in your board packet. So generally, the white paper did was help to identify what those hazards are going to look like, which are consistent with what we have in the Appendix O, the technical standards for resilience. We reviewed some existing approaches, such as the benefit cost ratio or analysis, that FEMA uses, which if anybody's unfamiliar with what that is, FEMA uses a benefit cost analysis approach, which is a quantitative method used to evaluate the cost effectiveness of a resilience project, essentially, which grant applicants have to use, and they actually have to show a positive ratio in order to secure funding. So that was a pretty analogous approach for us to consider. And through that white paper, the recommended approach was to use an annualized resilience value. So that's giving us an actual annualized savings, plus a total project benefit cost ratio, plus the estimated number of avoided business downtime days. So putting all of those things together to get to what our recommended approach would be. And the whole purpose of that would be to estimate the average annual financial burden and determine how much of it can be reduced through resilience improvements. And again, this was all designed to be as similar to our energy SIR calculations as possible. We used our current SIR calculator for energy as kind of a basis, if you will, for what we were trying to do with resilience. Obviously with a few tweaks. We could go to the next slide. So I'll run through this very quickly. I know that white paper was pretty dense, so I wanted to try to break this down as well as I could in terms of the steps that the calculator will take. So the first one here is establishing the baseline hazard cost or loss. So the contractors will work with the property owners to estimate those financial losses, including property losses, operational costs, etc., across all of the different hazards. And that would be based on historical records, models, etc. And these categories are all combined to calculate a comprehensive pre-project baseline for the total event loss. And then the second one here is the calculated expected annual damage, excuse me. And that estimates the losses from events and business downtime, and that gets multiplied by their annual probabilities in aggregate using a trapezoidal integration, which I've never heard of before. But basically a trapezoidal integration in our context of risk and finance, it's connecting all of the different data points and then mapping it out to calculate a total area of average annual financial risk. And then that kind of establishes a normalized recurring yearly baseline cost for both financial and operational impacts. Then the third one here is calculating a post-project expected annual loss. So that's the loss and downtime calculations. Those are then repeated, assuming the proposed resilience measures have been installed. And that gives us an expected remaining unmitigated risk post-project completion. From there, they're calculating the annual risk reduction. And that is found by subtracting the post-project annual financial loss from the baseline. And then we're using that to estimate the annual losses avoided from the resilience improvements, which include those reduced number of downtime days. Then we're comparing that to financing costs. So again, similar how we do to how we do energy SIR calculations. The avoided annual risk is compared to the annual financing. And then we're calculating the lifetime resilience value, which that figure is calculated by multiplying the annual risk reduction by the project useful lifespan of the installed measures. And that gives us a clear look into the gross financial savings of the project, which will be delivered over its useful life. And then the net present value or net present resilience value and benefit cost ratio. So then a discount is applied to the lifetime savings to determine the net present resilience value, which is then divided by the project costs to find the benefit cost ratio. And that gives us kind of a traditional investment metric that we're used to seeing when we're considering projects in the long term and their economic viability. And then last but not least, the project summary tables. So these are tables and graphs that are going to be generated from the inputs and the calculations in the calculator. And those tables will get translated to the cost savings analysis report, which will bring us to our next slide. And there we go. So the cost savings, resilience cost savings analysis report template, I might have to shorten that name. That's a lot of words. But it's a standardized way for Green Bank staff to present the technical details of a resilience project for approval to the board or to senior staff. So again, very familiar. That's what we do now with our energy projects. We have a calculator and a report. And the idea is that report could be a possible customer-facing document as well. So it kind of explains the process in a few sentences, kind of in everyday terms for all of us here that are not environmental engineers. So that could be maybe used when we're talking with a mortgage holder to get consent, or maybe for the property owner to look at, et cetera. But that's really meant to be kind of an easy way to understand what the project savings are going to look like. And again, those tables and graphs are going to be generated by the calculator tool. Those will get added in. And the report template was also an exhibit in your packet, Exhibit 2. And in there, you'll see that we have a preliminary list of KPIs that we're capturing. But we do imagine that we will add to those or edit those as we start to close transactions and see what actual KPIs are. We're kind of anticipating what those are at this moment. And I think that's everything. Would love to hear some feedback from the board on this approach. So I'll turn it back over to you, Cherry.
Thank you. The first thing I have folks around here, and Jamie will appreciate this too, in Brantford, they'll say, well, wait, we're going to invest in the possibility of a worst case scenario, and maybe that never happens. And so we've put that money out there, and what else can we benefit from along the way? And I'm wondering, are there insurance benefits? Does FEMA look more favorably on these kinds of investments?
Yeah. So I think you're right. A lot of this is we're anticipating losses due to events or due to things that are gonna probably going to happen. There is some probabilities that we're putting into these calculators. So, there's a certain level of, what's the word? Of confidence, I guess, in some of these things that are going to happen. But certainly things like insurance premium reductions or possible insurance premium reductions are things that can be realized almost regardless of whether some of those events happen. But on the other hand, you also have situations where you may not be looking at catastrophic events. We've certainly had situations, and I know even at my own home, I've had situations where we were having some basement flooding issues. And pretty much every time it rained, we were having flooding issues. And we know it's going to rain, right? That's a pretty much 100% probability, whether it's a regular rainstorm or a hurricane. So there's definitely some of those improvements that are going to be included in here that are just, there's just general problems that you're going to see kind of regardless of those, not necessarily catastrophic events, but almost daily or weekly, kind of smaller events that are very costly to maintain.
Any other questions or observations or concerns?
I'll jump in. I wanted to say a big thank you to the team. I had a wonderful time at the technical session that there was a wonderful group of people and also just well organized, and we really appreciate the discussions. And I'm sorry they didn't have time to dive into this, to the white paper ahead of the board meeting. But I was curious if it runs through a couple of scenarios, or maybe a couple different businesses or different hazards to play around with.
Yeah, great question. And thank you again, Joanna, for joining us. We will be, just side note, we will be tapping that resilience working group again to run through this white paper. That will be one of the follow-ups. I failed to mention that, but one of the follow-ups here is that we'll reach out to actual industry professionals to kind of look at this white paper and help give us some feedback to make sure that the calculator will be usable. But yes, Joanna, there are some kind of example calculations in the white paper. It is a little bit dense for sure, which is why I tried to just do a quick summary of the different points. But when you get into it, if you have any questions for me about that, let me know. But you will see there are some, example calculations in there. Some of the ratio calculations are actually listed in the white paper.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. That was a lot of work.
Thank you all for hearing us.
Bravo to everybody. That was really, really cool. Let's see. So we're now moving on to investment programs, updates and recommendations, and that feels like Bert and maybe Fiona.
Yes, it will be actually. Thank you, Chair Reed. Yes, this is about mutual security credit union and our linked deposits program. And I believe Fiona Stewart Jimenez is on the line. And if you're there, Fiona, you want to take it over?
Sure. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you.
Good morning.
All right. So some quick background for in 2023, Mutual Security Credit Union, or MSCU, they had a little bit of concern about staying in the Smarty program. They had capital constraints as they needed to fund 100% of the incremental loan volume via market rate deposits or borrowings from the Federal Home Loan Bank, which at the time in 2023 were around 5%. And it was making participating in Smarty uneconomic for them. As a result, the deployment committee at the time approved a pilot program for a test period of a year with a $2 million cap. We've subsequently extended and increased the program a few times. And most recently in April, the board approved an increase to $6 million. And at the time, we had said we would be back in June to discuss kind of next steps for the program. And so here we are back. Since April, MSCU has continued to request deposits. I will note that they are a little higher than previous periods over the past few years because of the current Smart E IRB program that we have going with the utilities, and that has continued. Over the past couple months, we've had conversations with MSCU regarding the program and its continued necessity. The Green Bank staff we have a couple of concerns around the program cap and increasing it, mainly regarding the limit of kind of sustainability for a pilot program. And if we were to expand to other Smarty lenders, the $6 million per institution represents a significant amount of money that would be constrained from other investment opportunities, particularly from other green bank programs. So in those conversations, MSCU, while expressing their interest in continuing the program, they fully recognized and understood the concerns around the cap, and also in those conversations indicated with the Treasury rate coming down, the need for the link deposits to continue the program, that need is lessened. So they recognize that. In those conversations, they did request some additional time in order to reach the cap, which we are projecting hitting in August. And then also to give us a little bit more time in order to reframe the program and how that's going to work. So that brings us to our request, where we are seeking approval to extend the program, which is due to expire next week, until September 30th of this year.
Thank you, Fiona. Yeah, so Chair Reed will take any questions, and if there aren't any, we can go to the resolution.
Okay, that's a good thing. Are there any questions or observations or concerns or? Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 6?
So moved. John Hardy.
Thank you, John. Do I hear a second?
So moved.
Second,
Lisa
Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, so I think the next item is the review and approval of write-offs above $100,000. And is that Priyank is going to talk to us about that?
That's correct,
Good morning,
Chair
Chair
Reed.
Reed.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Yep. Priyank Bhakta on the investments team. And we're requesting approval to write off several legacy loans prior to fiscal year end. To give the team over here some background, Solar Lease 1 is a legacy clean energy fund program that was started in June 2008. So this predates the Green Bank, and the program has been largely successful, having deployed over $15.2 million to enable over 850 Connecticut residents to install solar on their roof. And the program is now near the end of its life. We have around 98 customers remaining in the program. Of the 98 customers, around 79 customers representing roughly $84,000 in outstanding balance are current with their payments. And there are around 19 customers representing around $120,000 in outstanding balance that are over 120 days 120 days or more delinquent for a variety of reasons, such as the passing of the homeowner or financial hardship. Table 1 in the memo provides specific details for each of those delinquent borrowers or delinquent customers. And with that said, staff are requesting approval to formally write off around $110,000 of the SL1 loan representing 13 customers, because all 13 of these customers are actually over 1,000 days delinquent. The underlying systems have negligible value, along with removal and disposal costs are very prohibitive. So that's the rationale. And Green Bank Legal Department was consulted with regards to evaluating any potential litigation options or other remedies that are available, but the costs to do that would not necessarily justify the outcome. So therefore, we're requesting approval to write off these delinquencies. And with that said, I'll take any questions. Otherwise, let's move to resolution, please.
Are there any questions? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 7?
I move that we accept the resolution 7. Lisa Shanahan.
Thank you, Lisa. Do I hear a second?
Second, it's Adrian speaking.
Thank you, Adrian. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, good, John. Thank you. Abstaining? Okay. Let's see. So I see that I think we're moving on to other business now, right, Brian?
That's
No.
correct. And we're going to start with Green Liberty Notes
Okay.
with David Beach and Stephanie Cohen.
Great, thank you. David and Stephanie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just present the first slide here, giving a little background on our Green Liberty Note program, talking a little bit about our proposed expansion, and hand it off to Stephanie to go into some more detail. So as many of you likely know, Green Liberty Notes is our crowdfunding platform or program that we designed to democratize green investing, hitting on one of our core goals. We were able to bring down the minimum price to invest with the Green Bank from $1,000 with the Green Liberty bonds down to just $100, and eliminate the need to have a broker. So now everyday citizens can invest just $100 and do it in a couple minutes, though we still encourage them to read the offering documents. The current one-year notes are supported by the Small Business Energy Advantage Program, and in the past 3 or 4 years that we've had this program, we've raised nearly $5 million across 16 issuances, receiving investment from well over 500 investors. Of those investments, more than 60% have been in original increments of $1,000 or less, and more than half of those investments have come from residents of Connecticut. Earlier this year, we went out with an RFP to sort of solidify the platform, the crowdfunding platform we'd like to use for the next 3 years, and selected Honeycomb Credit. And we also received approval from the board to raise up to $5 million annually, and also shared with the board that we'd be coming back to set out guidelines for how we would raise issuances that are different than the current one-year note structure with the SBA. So the proposed expansion that we are going to the board with today is to periodically link issuances with Green Bank finance projects that go beyond the Small Business Energy Advantage Program. So some of those things could be more project-specific offerings that allow community members to invest alongside the Green Bank in a project that they can actually see happening in their community. We'd also like to enable our crowdfunding investors the option to donate some or all of their interest earnings to a vetted, mission-aligned nonprofit entity to sort of double down on their impact of their investment, and to establish partnerships with foundations to co-invest alongside the crowd in future issuances. So to go into more detail on that, I will hand it over to Stephanie, who will take it from here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, David. So as David mentioned, staff have been kind of working across teams to develop internal processes now for the board's consideration and approval that kind of first look at the Green Bank's portfolio of projects specifically and see what opportunities there are to highlight either a single project, as David mentioned, or perhaps a portfolio of projects to kind of coalesce a future Green Liberty Notes campaign or raise around to give individuals an opportunity to kind of tangibly see the project and its benefits. If there's opportunities for kind of local outreach depending on the type of project and community that the project resides in, and generally just to kind of link that ability to have a direct impact for these retail investors participating already in this kind of long established and successful Green Liberty Notes program with as little as $100. So there's a lot of additional details in the memo, but as an example of kind of what we're looking at for project specific kind of criteria or what would be a good fit for a future Green Liberty Notes campaign, some of the things we were looking at, for example, are
the amount of funds either loaned or kind of in green bank assets, as well as the kind of construction completion timeline and looking for projects that have begun, generating energy already. In addition, the current SBEA Green Liberty Note option is a 1 year term. But we're looking at, depending on, again, the kind of project type and the specifics attributed to that project, is there an opportunity to extend the term length beyond 1 year? We did conduct a survey of existing Green Liberty Note investors last year, and it seemed like there was some appetite for kind of going out to multiple years. So we're looking at potentially a 1 to up to 5 range with, the same kind of fixed interest rate, which again will kind of depend on and be determined by the investment team and others internally based on the characteristics of that particular project. So some of the exciting kind of projects that might be in a future pipeline, we've talked to the board previously about a pending electric school bus financing transaction with Zoom to electrify this town of Branford's school bus fleet. We also have, brought to the board updates around the great work that the solar map team is doing on supporting solar projects on affordable multifamily housing sites across the state, which are starting, just in the beginning of construction phases. So we're kind of getting a pulse on all the great work that is being done by the financing program teams, investment program teams, in trying to see where there might be a good fit for bringing some of these projects, kind of amplifying them, highlighting them into the crowd, and giving the community and Connecticut and really beyond the opportunity to kind of invest directly in those projects. Now, as David mentioned, we also have this kind of new and exciting feature that we're looking to, again, with a board approval, explore with Honeycomb, who is our crowdfunding platform provider, to really kind of build out their options for investors who are coming onto their platform. That's where the host of the Green Liberty Notes engagement for investors is, to have the option, again, it's not mandatory or built in, but to for their interest earnings of after their repayment period, to kind of donate or share either a full amount of those interest earnings or a portion. We've talked about, the 1% for the planet kind of theme that other private sector businesses sometimes follow, in trying to see if we can emulate that here as well. And again, that just kind of gives investors who are often, quite passionate in supporting the clean economy here in Connecticut another opportunity to have their dollar stretch and go a little bit further. We can talk in a minute about, where and how those dollars will kind of flow through, but that's one of the exciting features that we're hoping to roll out with Honeycomb in the coming months. And then the third, just to touch on very briefly, is that we're looking at working, in addition to kind of having retail investors the ability to support an identified community nonprofit, we're hoping to work with foundations so that they can enable their interest in co-investment in a particular project, again, that's kind of highlighted through a Green Liberty Notes raise, to maximize their impact if they're able to, offer a concessionary rate or 0%. In terms of the commitment that they're making through a Green Liberty Notes, to see if they can also support their dollars through the project investment and get their return on that principal, but then donate their interest earnings through the campaign to an identified local nonprofit or government entity. I think I just have one more slide, and then we can pause for questions and comments. So next slide, please. So this goes into a little bit further into details, and there's more in the memo in your board materials if you're interested in getting deeper into it. But we're proposing for the board's consideration proposed criteria and really a process for due diligence that Green Bank staff would undertake for selecting this recipient or beneficiary of a given Green Liberty Notes campaign. So this entity, either a nonprofit, existing nonprofit, or government entity, would be identified and vetted by the staff prior to a campaign kind of launch and be embedded in that. And so it wouldn't be selected by the investor or a undetermined partner, that type of thing. It would all kind of be front and center for investors' kind of consideration. As I alluded to earlier, it's important that this fund be used to benefit the community, either that the project itself resides in or otherwise supports the Green Bank's mission more broadly. And so we've talked through, what are the best ways of ensuring the greatest impact is going to these communities in a way that we feel confident about. And so thinking about criteria, for example, of having the nonprofit be an existing versus a new entity, and then demonstrating their ability to accept and manage funds, having the, a short summary or report out of how the funds were used after receipt. There's, again, additional kind of details on how the Green Bank staff would go through this process to work with a community partner, or it could be, a government entity, could be a community-based foundation, for example, and just to ensure that the due diligence is there as well. So kind of just to wrap it up, and happy to take any questions as we have time. Our goal with this proposed expansion, these processes are outlined in the memo of the board's consideration today, is to really just amplify our impact, and having the Green Liberty Notes program really be able to democratize investment locally that supports directly projects in Connecticut's green economy. And so by more directly linking to project specific or kind of a portfolio of projects, and future potential issuances kind of allows these community members to participate in a project, perhaps in their own community, to earn a return tied to the performance, and then to have this option again, as we talked through, to donate the earnings back to their community while they still retain, the principal investment that they've made. So this really just helps us better direct or continue to link environmental benefits of a project to benefits of local investors, and create a new way for the Green Bank to really engage meaningfully in the communities where we work. So with that, we'd like to move to the resolution, and happy to talk through anything further or take any questions.
Are there any questions? It sounds like a really, really good idea. I like this on so many levels.
Great. It looks like Joanna might have a question first.
Joanna?
Yes, thanks, Stephanie. This is really fascinating. Would the projects that come up, or the community-based projects, are these going to be pre-selected by the Green Bank, or and are there time limitations on their participation? So is there certain deadlines that projects would need to get into the pipeline for consideration? And do we have to, are we sort of getting caught into saying, here's the 10 projects for the next 3 years for the next cycle? Just curious how those project selection, timeline, and how often we can add projects.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll take a first stab and see if David or anyone else wants to add on to it. So I think what we want to kind of clearly kind of baseline, continue the existing kind of essentially quarterly cadence of the Green Liberty Notes raises that are funding the Small Business Energy Advantage program. And so this is kind of a layer on top of, if we're going to intend to do additional, have more raises out there. We're seeing lately an appetite from investors with some oversubscribed SBEA raises recently, that there's an interest in having more investment opportunities. And so we're trying to pair that or meet that demand with the ability to look at our own portfolio and select projects. So to try to answer your question, I think we're figuring it out as we go. I think we're going to have that baseline of quarterly SPEA raises, and perhaps we get to a place where every other in between, there's either a project or portfolio specific raise, where I don't think we're going to be able to kind of map it out, or that it's feasible or practical to map it out kind of multi-year in advance, because there's a lot of factors that kind of all have to come together, where I think it becomes a suitable project. We want to have input from the investments team. Certainly we want to have projects online and energized, or loan transactions completed the marketing and outreach team will have certain considerations too in terms of partnerships and when there's, you know, kind of the ideal time to really raise up a project. So I think, let me know if there's other parts to your question that I haven't gotten to yet, but I'll just pause there.
No, that was super helpful. That it sounds like we're going to have flexibility
Yeah.
over the coming years for per project, and also curious if there's space for project nurturing. So on the environmental infrastructure side, it's making me think of transfer development rights, but I think we would need some outreach with conservation organizations to talk about some ideal properties, particularly in flood-prone areas or ones that have high conservation benefits, such as greenhouse gas sequestration and those types of things. But that would need some nurturing.
Yeah, that's a great point. I should say too that we have looked at internally a few of the EI projects coming down the pike as well, so that this wouldn't just be necessarily a clean energy lens, but one of the areas where that kind of mitigates the risk on the retail investor side is that the, you know, either again, loan documentation or otherwise agreements have to be kind of inked already. Projects need to be, you know, either in the ground or producing energy, that type of thing. So it's in this Green Liberty Notes is kind of layered on top of that, whereas it's not necessarily a condition of the terms of the agreement with the borrower or partner in that case. We're not trying to, you know, complicate that loan transaction or other kind of closing process, if you will. And so this is looking back at what's the great work that the teams have already done and how can we kind of amplify certain of those projects. David, anything to add there?
Not really. I think you kind of hit it. You know, one thing we didn't want to do to our investors is, you know, have them invest in a project that isn't finished yet, and then, you know, there's some unforeseen delays, and then there's an issue then with the counterparty in the actual project relationship, and then also some difficulties with investors. So that's why one of the key things we wrote was, you know, we think this is a perfect thing for recently completed in projects that are just starting to operate, to sort of eliminate some of that construction timing risk, so investors aren't facing that. It does then inherently, though, mean that it's hard exactly to nail down pipeline. The SBA program has this natural, every 3 months we purchase a tranche of loan cadence. When we're talking about specific projects at the Green Bank, they can be delayed or change timing for any number of reasons. So it's hard to really nail down pipeline until, you know, some of these projects that we're interested in close.
I see Lisa Shanahan has a question as well. Lisa?
Yeah, a sort of a technical, silly question, but I was wondering about for the how you're incenting individual investors to donate their interest earnings. Are you going to be providing like 501c documentation so that it can be a tax deduction? Is that the theory of how to encourage people to do this?
No, it was something we thought about.
So there you go.
In terms of administratively, and the complexity for what, you know, is likely to be not a huge dollar amount donation, you know, I think we thought it'd be a large administrative burden to sort of have accounting and legal handling all of those sort of tax receipts. So instead, it's essentially like folks are agreeing to accept a lower interest rate, and then separately the Green Bank is going to be donating that delta to an organization, but it won't be essentially an effective donation from the investor. And that's really just to avoid some pretty heavy administrative costs for a donation that's not too large to, or not large enough to warrant it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Lisa, we're hopeful that folks will folks who are already kind of Green Liberty Note investors or maybe new to haven't heard about it before, but are interested and excited about the given project that kind of brings them to the raise opportunity are, you know, kind of maybe don't need much convincing. I don't know how else to say it, but like that are already kind of, you know, passionate and willing to support a project. Obviously we'll see in terms of the donation aspect or kind of giving up. That's why I think we're interested in finding that kind of not just an all like a yes or no, but kind of a middle ground, if you will, where you're giving up some of that interest rate earnings, but that you're getting something more than just your principal back that you put into it. And so it's new. It'll be new for us. It's going to be new for Honeycomb as a platform provider. And so we're looking forward to, just with David's great work and everyone at the Green Banks, kind of launching this as a first kind of Green Bank crowdfunding opportunity, and as well, just seeing, testing out this new kind of added feature to it. And again, it's the optional nature will kind of give us a lot of data and insights into how investors are thinking about the opportunity.
Yeah, and I'll just add one more thing. We're not offering the sort of tax deduction, but we are thinking and brainstorming around ways to acknowledge those investors that do decide to donate. So that would look like writing something different on there when they finish their investment, or marking them as like a community supporter or something like that on their Honeycomb page. So when they see their investment, there's an acknowledgement that they donated. So we're brainstorming and thinking about ways to incentivize, just not with the tax rate.
Any more questions or observations?
Madam Chair, if I might.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, first of all, great job by David and Stephanie here on this. The Green Bank is, as many of you may know, is really the only green bank in the country that's regularly issuing bonds and notes. We're being very purposeful with that. You do have NYSERDA from time to time issuing bonds under its Green Jobs, Green New York program. You have Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, which when they issue bonds is mostly for their municipal infrastructure program. But we're trying to really, as David and Stephanie pointed out, give these investment opportunities. It's clear we're being oversubscribed. We're oversubscribed on Green Liberty bonds. The last one, I believe, David, was 3-1. I believe it was in that neck of the woods. And we've been selling out of the Green Liberty notes. So 175 million in bonds over the last, say, 10 years. So we're really, and the demand is across, I think, more than 40 states in the country. So Connecticut is really getting a lot of attention from the Green Bank programs here. So the innovation is clear, and really appreciate the support of the board on this new program. Thank you.
I was visiting a niece in Texas, and she was all excited about them. They're buying them in Texas. This is good. The reputation is really nationwide and beyond. Okay, any more questions or observations? Do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 8?
I so move. Lisa Shanahan.
Thank you, Lisa Shanahan. Do I hear a second?
Joanna will second.
Thank you, Joanna. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstaining? Okay. Let's see, our next, Brian, do you want to talk about the next?
Yeah,
Our next
why don't I jump in here? Yeah, so we recently received a designation letter of Deputy Commissioner Andy Frank as our designee for the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. So I think we see Andy on the line here. I saw him earlier. I think he's still on. Andy, feel free to affirm or put your thumbs up.
I'm here, yeah.
There you go. There you go. For a variety of reasons, we are recommending the nomination of Andy to serve as vice chair of the Connecticut Green Bank. We have had a longstanding tradition since we began for Deep serving in this role. For those of you who may have been around in the early days when Public Act 1180 passed, will recall that Commissioner Dan Esty served in this capacity as vice chair. And we've just had an ongoing tradition of Deep leadership serving in this role on the board, for obvious reasons, clean energy, environmental infrastructure, the mission of Deep, both of our desires to see more investment happening in Connecticut's green economy. But I would just say, about Andy in general. I've worked with Andy for years. He has a passion in a variety of energy areas. I would say the residential energy efficiency areas where he's cut his teeth, but as we saw this past legislative session, just puts his whole self out there, understanding the complexity of the energy challenges that our state faces, and really excited to bring him forward in this possible nomination here for the board's consideration. Why don't I stop there and see if Chair Reed, if you had any questions, comments, and Andy, if you'd be willing to accept the nomination, and then we've got a resolution from there.
Well, I have to say, I always am amazed and impressed by the quality of the folks that we have on our board. And Andy, in addition to being the deputy commissioner of DEEP, and his whole lane there has to do with, it's the Bureau of Energy and Technology Policy, affordable housing, energy retrofits, building and transportation, decarbonization, energy supply and infrastructure. And looking into his bio a little farther, in the private sector, he started a company that became quite successful, Sealed, and led business development for Efficiency 2.0, an energy efficiency software company that help homes and businesses save energy and carbon through information and rewards. So I just think he brings a lot to the experience, and it's everything we're working on. And so I would love to nominate him to be the deputy chair. And Andy, are you going to accept it, or does this appeal to you?
It would be my honor to accept it. And obviously both with my deep hat and supporting Green Bank's mission, but also, as Brian said, we've worked together for many years. I've been a huge fan of the work that the Connecticut Green Bank's done. It would be an honor to be vice chair to help support that mission.
Okay, great. So do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 10?
I'll make the motion, Joanna.
Thank you. Do you hear a second?
Second, Jamie Cosgrove.
Thank you, Jamie Cosgrove. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, excellent. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you. Glad to be joining the team.
And then one more item. I think also, Brian, you wanted to start off with this to talk about the recognition of Katie Dykes. And go ahead.
Why don't I start off, and then I'll turn it to you, Chair Reed, and would invite members of the staff, members of the board to say a few things as well. I think, when a lot of us heard the news in early June, on June 5th, when the governor announced Katie's departure, which I think is maybe today, maybe her last day. I had received a call from her just before it, and we talked about it, and so we wanted to take some time to honor and recognize her service. And all of us, in our variety of ways, have experienced Katie's leadership, commitment, dedication to all the things that she has had to juggle at DEEP, which is just an incredible portfolio that requires leadership. So Lonnie and I wanted to spend some time. Here we are earlier this week, on Wednesday night of this week, celebrating with the commissioner, her team, her colleagues, and others. But I just wanted to relay a memory, and there are many of them. But like every day when I walk into this office, I'm greeted by Executive Order 1. One of Katie's first leadership actions when she became commissioner was to work with the governor on EO1. And this is really taking the state lead by example efforts to a whole new level. And it shows her leadership in terms of putting the policies out there, and then as we see today, them being implemented. So, when we are presenting proposals on the Connecticut technical high schools or the projects that are going up at the Department of Transportation, Department of Administrative Services, deep, across the state, Yukon, all of that is driven by leadership and this executive order, which made all of these things possible. So it's not only, a statement of the governor's leadership and the support of his team and Katie's idea, putting it out there, but we also see it in action. And I'm sure many of us have seen that over the years, but right out the door, we saw it. And when you come into our office, you'll see it now. It's a framed executive order with the pen. John, you might recall you were going to join the signing ceremony for that, but you couldn't. I had to ask the governor for the pen that he signed that executive order with, and you'll see that in the award as you immediately come into the office. And every time I see that, I think of the commissioner's leadership and how she initially, right out the door, put us all on the pathway to confronting climate, but doing it with the lens of us needing to look at our own house first. And here we are delivering on it. So that's my one of many memories of the commissioner, but just wanted to say that and tell you all that story. Let me turn it back to you, Chair Reed.
Yes, thank you. I have to say, I was chair of the Energy Committee when we passed 1180, and we were very excited about where we were going with that. But as you can imagine, any kind of change, not everyone is thrilled, and some people were going to be kind of kicked to the curb. We had a lot of sort of folks with balkanized input, and we were trying to really get the energy, our energy thrust in a really advanced professional way. And so we created DEEP, putting energy into, and you would think, aha, everybody's thrilled. Not necessarily. So there were all of this. And so, which is my way of saying, thank God for Katie, because she came and we were dealing with it, and her ability to, she's so smart, but her ability to also generate this incredible warmth and to listen to people and to, really become accessible. And it really helped us get over a huge hump, because, that was a very tricky thing. And it's something that I've always admired, as we also pursued legislation along the way and put some bipartisan coalitions together for some important stuff. That she, the tougher it gets, the more you see her warmth and her cool. She doesn't lose it. She keeps it together. And so I've always been amazed and impressed, and I know she'll stay in touch. Does anybody else have anything they want to say?
Yeah, feel free to raise your hand if you want to jump in the queue here. And Lonnie, just to your point, it's almost a 15-year career here in Connecticut. That takes us really back to her being the Deputy Commissioner of Energy, which, Andy Frank is in the role of. And then she became the chair of PURA, and then ultimately the commissioner of DEEP. And so you could imagine just the rich history of all the things that Katie has done for this state and the legacy she leads for this state. So, but let's see if there are others. I see John Harity and then Bert Hunter.
Yeah, I just want to relay a memory that reflects on the commissioner's great vivacious personality and having so much to say. And as Commissioner Reed was saying, how smart she is. Way back when, John Humphreys, the former director of the Connecticut Roundtable on Climate and Jobs, and I were supposed to have 10 minutes on the John Vankowski morning radio program on public radio. And the guest before us was Commissioner Dykes, who had just been recently appointed. And so we were waiting, and we were waiting, and we were waiting, and we were waiting, because Commissioner Dykes had so much to say, and she was such an interesting guest that they stayed with her for 8 minutes of our 10 minutes. So we got 2 minutes on the program, but only because we had a commissioner that was so excited about the subject that she had a lot to say, and it was interesting to the host and to the listeners. So she's kind of followed in that tradition since then. Just being someone who believes passionately in this area, and I have to say that being a passionate advocate for cleaner, smarter, cheaper energy in this state, at times I can only imagine it must have been a somewhat tiring and frustrating position to be in, trying to get us all moving. But she managed to do it. And I think some of the stuff that we just talked about before in the legislative session just ending and other milestones over that 15 years have been such that it's reflected her dedication to the issue and to the people of Connecticut. So that was just my comment.
Thank you, John. Barry.
Yes, hi. Let me come on camera here if I can get that off. There we go. Yeah, I just want to take us back to, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I remember the early days with Katie when we were working on concepts to bring together all of the disparate sources of information for energy efficiency and renewables, solar, in one place for homeowners, for businesses, nonprofits, and so forth. I don't know how many of you remember those days, but the information was scattered and everywhere. This effort, with Katie, turned out to be the beginning of what's now known as Energize CT, where everything is now available in one place. So easy to find information for people to take action, and that's really something that was very important for the Green Bank and for all of the efforts that we have in the state to try to help people become more energy efficient and to take advantage of clean energy resources. And more recently, collaborating with her on solid waste issues. We have a tremendous waste problem in the state, and so she's been championing a lot of organic waste management with anaerobic digesters, like we have with our investment with quantum biopower, circular services in Southington, where recently we were at a ribbon cutting there with Governor Lamont. And it's just really speaks to her passion, her commitment to clean energy and sound energy policy. So we'll really miss her contributions along these lines, and really appreciate her tireless commitment over these last 14 years. So thanks very much, Katie.
Anybody else? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 10?
So moved.
Second.
Do I hear good second?
It's-
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
It sounds like Chair Reed.
I'm getting a little.
Yeah, no
the,
problem at
the
all.
allergy season is hitting. Yeah.
You're getting a little of the cliff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we? So I think we're at the end of our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn our meeting here today?
So moved.
Great. Thank you, John. Is there a second?
This is Dominic. I'll second.
Thank you, Dominic. All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Abstention? Excellent. Lonnie, be well there. Everyone have a great weekend. For those of you who are getting out, go and check out golf at the Travelers over the weekend. And everyone have a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
You too.
This was a long
Bye.
meeting. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I guess.